Joined now by our legal panel, Doug Burns, former federal prosecutor, at Doug Burns the Law on Twitter, right?
Yes.
Okay, all right, good. Marc Fernich, am I saying that right?
Yeah, you did well enough.
Criminal defense lawyer. How do I really say it?
Furnish, like what you do
Furnish.
to a house.
Okay,
yeah.
all right,
Wow,
at Marc Fernich on Twitter. All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for talking to us about this. You know, the Supreme Court basically is ruling this constitutional. They're saying this is a tax issue. I mean, some say it's not a tax issue. Others say it's a mandate on health insurance and it's unconstitutional. Legally speaking, are we talking, something that you believe that the Republicans will be successful in repealing due to the fact that they claim that this is unconstitutional?
No, I don't think they'll be successful in repealing at all. I mean, I think that this was the right result, both politically and, more important, legally. It shows judicial restraint, shows deference to the legislative branch, and that's precisely what the Republicans claim to want in judges. To strike down a statute as unconstitutional, a duly passed statute as unconstitutional, is the legal equivalent, as Doug will say, of a nuclear weapon. It's the last thing that a court should be doing. It's the strongest medicine there is in constitutional law, and it's a drastic step. And it's the court's duty to uphold a statute as constitutional if there's any fair way to do so. And that's what Chief Justice Roberts did today.
Doug?
Well, law is an interesting science, and it doesn't lend itself necessarily to sort of, the one-liners and the sound bites. In other words, what the court did today is so interesting is they turned around and said, we cannot force you to purchase health insurance. But
Right.
by the way, if you don't purchase it, we can impose a tax on you. Now, to the average person, that's essentially a distinction without a lot of meaning to it. But to a lawyer, it's a big distinction because theoretically, Mark and I and other lawyers understand that under the Commerce Clause, you can't tell somebody they have to consume or obtain or buy a certain product. That's what's so comical, in a sense, about all of this, because that's what everybody was pontificating about. They can't make you buy it. Exactly right. But by the way, they can impose a tax on your tax return if you don't. That's the ruling. I think the other thing I wanted to say is that people are a little too hasty to say it's going to be 5-4. It's going to be the typical 4-4 split with Justice Kennedy deciding it. Well, guess what? They were wrong.
Yes,
the Chief
they were.
Justice, John Roberts, broke ranks, joined with the otherwise liberal wing of the court, and Justice Kennedy aligned himself with Justices Scalia, Thomas, Alito, etc., in the conservative bloc. So I think it's very interesting. And then, of course, the other thing is I haven't analyzed it that close as the Medicaid aspect. They did apparently strike down one small section of the law.
I want you guys to react to some of our comments because
Sure.
they're coming in a lot, and I think it's interesting that we go over them.
Sure.
Brad Fontaine writes, how is this a win for the president when the only reason it was upheld is because it was considered a tax, which is something he adamantly denies it to be? We talked about the fact that, when President Obama argued that taxes should not be raised on the middle class and that we should be
Right.
taxing the wealthy, et cetera. We had a viewer that wrote in earlier that discussed, and you probably overheard,
Right.
this person is afraid that they're going to be taxed higher. Their income is $45,000 a year. That's the exact economic group that President Obama had said
Right.
would not get taxed under his administration. So is he going back on not taxing the middle class by allowing for a mandate such as this to, in essence, tax the middle class? Because
Right.
these people now, middle class, are going to have to pay higher taxes in order to pay for this health insurance.
Well, they're not going to have
or
to
be
pay higher
penalized.
taxes. They're not going to have to pay higher taxes. If they don't buy the health insurance, then they're
No,
going
but
to
then
have
they'll
to
be
pay
penalized.
something.
So either way, more money will come out of
This
their
is what I
pocket
would
one
say
way
to
or the
Mr.
Yeah,
other.
and then I want to throw in a one-line.
Okay.
Go ahead.
This is
Okay.
what I would say to Mr. Fontaine. In politics, in law, and in baseball, you ask the result, not what the score was. What matters is that the law was sustained. And the challengers to the law conceded that if the law was properly passed as a tax and could be construed as a tax, it would be constitutional. And Chief Justice Roberts very cleverly hoisted them on their own petard because that's exactly what he found that it was. So they really have no cause to complain.
You talk about clever. What a head fake, by the way, because when the opinion was released at 10 o'clock, Julie, you're going to love this. You start going through the opinion, and it says that the individual mandate cannot withstand scrutiny under the Commerce Clause. So all of the reporters race out in front of the microphones. It's been struck down. I mean, I'm sure you saw that. What a head fake. And then on another ground, same thing, it wouldn't withstand scrutiny. And then finally they said, but as a tax, however, it's fine.